Hi, I'm Laura Paglione, the project upholder for Metadata 2020. I am really sorry that I'm not able to join you in person at RDA in Helsinki. Hopefully you'll find this video form of an update on Metadata 2020 useful. I am dialed in online and I'm also in the notes document, so I'm available for questions if you have any. Metadata 2020 was established in 2017 with the goal to advance scholarly pursuits for the benefit of society through a collaboration that advocates for richer, connected, and reusable open metadata for all research outputs. Financially supported by Crossref, this effort engages hundreds of volunteers worldwide and recognizes that richer metadata fuels discovery and innovation, and that connected metadata bridges the gaps between systems and communities. This group is driven by the premise that reusable open metadata eliminates duplication of effort, and that by settling for inadequate metadata, we all suffer as a consequence. The project has naturally progressed in three distinct phases. During the first phase, we spent time exploring the communities engaged in and impacted by metadata. The communities included researchers, publishers, librarians, data publishers and repositories, services, platforms, and tools, and funders. These 6 community groups considered the impact of metadata in their area of scholarly communication. Each group crafted a clear problem statement and then outlined the metadata challenges and opportunities. With these in mind, they developed a vision statement of what richer metadata would mean for their community, along with an actionable plan of what the community can do to move closer to this vision. This work occurred mostly during 2017 and early 2018. You can read these aspirational thoughts and statements on the Metadata 2020 website at metadata2020.org/communities. The exploration from the community phase led to the observation that there were several themes that emerged from the challenges, opportunities, and action plans for each of the communities. From these themes, we established 6 cross-community projects, each of which explored solutions to address the challenges presented. These projects set out to explore ways to align efforts between communities to increase the impact and consistency of communication with researchers about their metadata. Next, converge communities and publishers toward a shared set of recommended metadata concepts with related mappings between the concepts and the specific elements that are used daily. Next, develop a glossary of words associated with metadata, both for the core concepts and disciplinary areas. Also, understand real-life stories as evidence of how better metadata helped meet community, organizational, and individual goals. Next, build a set of high-level best practices for using metadata across the scholarly communication cycle to facilitate interoperability and easier information exchange across stakeholders. And finally, identify and compare existing metadata evaluation tools to understand how they inform metadata guidance. Several outputs have resulted from these efforts, many of which we've already published, and some that we aim to publish by the end of the year. Most of the project work and publication of outputs occurred in late 2018 and 2019. You can see a list of the participants in these project groups, along with the project plans at metadata2020.org/projects. And a list of the published outputs can be found at metadata2020.org/resources. I'd like to highlight a few significant outputs that may be of interest. First, a set of metadata principles. These aspirational principles consider the question, what does it mean to have richer metadata? And how does context affect this equation? The principles advocate for us to be good metadata citizens and to provide a foundation for the other Metadata 2020 outputs. They are broad by design, and they must be interpreted within the legal and practical context in which the communities operate. You can see a list of them here. The next output I'd like to share is the set of metadata personas. These personas came into being because we found that people that say, create metadata, are more alike with regard to the metadata than their professional roles or the industries that they represent. This construct of personas have been helpful as we consider the metadata actions to be taken in various situations, and have been helpful as we think through use cases and how we might communicate resources that we create. The third output that I'd like to share with you is the metadata literature review. We published a peer-reviewed academic literature review that explored how academics are thinking about metadata and characterizing its effectiveness. Between this review and a related Science Open literature collection, over 150 articles and resources were evaluated and summarized. This thorough review summarizes the research by stakeholder group and its impact to scholarly communication, as well as its metadata supply chain as a result of the relationship between these groups. It concludes with suggested areas for further research. The final output that I'd like to share with you is actually the first one that we created. It's a summary of existing metadata best practices. This output consists of links to existing metadata guidelines and best practices in order to shed light on what currently exists and how they apply to the scholarly communications lifecycle. Best practices in general reflect agreed upon standards that help an industry or field to do its job better. The scholarly communication lifecycle works better when the practices are known and used by the community at all points of the cycle. And this list helps if in situations where new practices may be needed. As we get closer to 2020, we've been thinking about how we pull together all that we've explored and learned to develop a lasting impact for richer, connected, and reusable open metadata for all research outputs. During a recent workshop, we considered the key audiences that would need to be influenced to create this impact and developed the following list. Policy and society influencers, for example, funders. Content directors, for example, editors or others that influence what content is published. Solution builders, those who build the tools that we use that have metadata in them. And researchers, the ones that are creating the content. To ensure that we package our work in a way that gets to the core of what each of these audiences care about, we've developed profiles for each, understanding the jobs they perform and what they consider to be their biggest pains and gains. In looking at these profiles, we developed several ideas for leveraging the work that we've done to influence these audiences. The top 3 of them are here. Number 3, our pilot portfolio of experiments helps product developers and solution builders who want to establish shared principles of good metadata design by providing data to reduce business risk and increase profits and customer satisfaction from better discoverability. This is basically a database of success stories. Number 2, our collaboration with several organizations helps content directors who want to improve all aspects of their jobs by decreasing stagnation and increasing community recognition of metadata importance. These are basically collaborations with other organizations that care deeply about metadata so that we can pool resources in order to increase awareness about metadata. And number 1, our advocacy campaign helps funders and influencers who want to save the world by ensuring that they understand open research infrastructure and can fund more, better, and faster research. This is setting the stage for those that influence the work that we do as a society and helping them to understand the impact that metadata can have in that goal. We'll be looking for more people to join us as we develop these ideas. Maybe that's you. If you're interested, please reach out to me. My email address is lpaglione@metadata2020.org. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again, and I'm sorry again that I'm not able to be there. I look forward to meeting you all in person sometime in the future.